Okay, in our last video, we talked about some of our key vocabulary words like period and digit. We also talked about place value and how to find the place and the value, how they're similar and how they're different. So today we're going to build on that knowledge, and we're going to learn about the fact that if we have a number here, so for example, if we were to put a 4 here, a 4 here, and a 4 here, we would have the number 444. Even though those all have the digit 4, they're in different places, which means these all have different worth. But what you're going to notice, even though all these digits are 4, every time we move one place over to the left, the value is 10 times as much. So here are 4 ones. That shows us what's here, okay? When we look at here, yes, this is a 4, but it's in the tens place. So now we have 4 tens. And I love base 10 blocks because look, here's 4 ones. Each of these is here. Each of these is 1. So now you can see each of these is worth 10 times as much as one of these, okay? Then we move over, so here's our 4 ones, here's our 4 tens. Now if we look here, we have 4 hundreds. And here, this is right there. So you can see your little 1, it's right there. And they take 10 of these and shove them together, and now we have 100. So this is helping you to see. And if we were to keep going, we would have more and more. So here's some common questions, a style of question you might see. But it's really important that you understand. It's just like if I said, oh, I'm going to give you 4. You would say, what, Mrs. Baines? 4 what? 4 pickles? 4 nachos? Just like if I said, okay, with money, I'm going to give you 4. You would want to know, are you going to give me 4 pennies, 4 dimes, 4 dollars, 4 $10 bills, 4 $100 bills? So it's the place and the value, but we do need to know that as we're moving over, the value is multiplied by 10, okay? So, what is the value of the 4 in the tens place? The value of the 4 in the tens place, we have our digit 4. How many places are to the right? It's 1. It is 40. What is the value of the 4 in the ones place? Well, if it's in the ones place, the value is 4. Now let's read this carefully. The value of the 4 in the tens place, so this 4, tens place, is blank times greater than the value of the 4 in the ones place. So this one here in the tens, if it's in the tens, they're both 4s, right? But if it's in the tens place, it's worth 40. So, and if it's in the ones, it's worth 4. So we've moved over 1, so that means it's going to be 10 times greater. Now look, this is a little trick. Are you ready? 1 0. Right? 40 has 1 0. 4 has none. It's 10 times greater. I'm going to explain that more later. Just put a pin in it. Notice that we've got the same number of zeros, okay? All right. What is the value of the 4 in the hundreds place? Well, if it's in the hundreds place, if it's a digit 4 in the hundreds place, we've got the 4. We're in the hundreds. We've got 2 zeros after, right? So we're going to come back here. 400. What is the value of the 4 in the ones place? It's 4. The value of the 4 in the hundreds place, that's this one, right, is blank times greater than the value of the, this is supposed to be, guess what, 4 is blank times greater than the value of the 4 in the ones place, right? So we moved over here. It wants to know the ones. So we went from the 1 to the 100. So times 10. Now some people would say, oh, it's times 20. No. If we go times 10 and we multiply times 10 again, we know that 10 times 10 is 100. So now we are 100 times greater. Now remember before I told you, look, 40 to 4, 10, same number of zeros. Now look at this one, 400 We went from 400 to 4. It has 2 zeros. Okay? All right, so let's go on to our next page. Okay, and the whole point of math, like, it's great if you can answer these kind of questions, right? But we need to know how to apply this in real life, don't we? So let's take a look at some real world problems to help us see how would we see this place value in real life, okay? So Sarah is 9 years old. Sarah's grandfather is 90 years old. Okay, so Sarah, she's 9. Grandpa, he's 90. I'm just taking some notes because sometimes word problems can be very overwhelming, right? Sarah's grandfather is how many times as old as Sarah? So the first thing we have to think about is place, right? The 9 in this one is in the ones place. This 9 is in the tens place. Well, Grandpa is what? He is 10 times as old as Sarah, isn't he? Because 9, if we multiply that 9 times 10, we would get 90. Okay? Let's keep going. The Carson family saved up $39,000. So when we read these numbers, we look 39. I read them in those chunks of the periods, right? So $39,580, because here's our dollars, for a new home. The cost of their dream home is 10 times as much as they have saved. How much does their dream home cost? Okay, so it's 10 times as much as they have saved. We have $39,580. So what we have seen each time we've done this, if it's 10 times as much, we're going to add a 0 to the end. Okay? Because this 3, if we make this 3 10 times as much, it is in the 10,000s right now, right? But it's actually, if it's 10 times as much, it's going to be in the 100,000s. So let's start writing that. So the 3, now the 9, let's go it 10 times as much. So right now it's in the thousands. It's going to move over to the 10,000s. So now here's our 9. The 100. If it's 10 times as much, the 5 will move from the hundreds place to the thousands place. So let's put our 5. Then our 8. It's in the tens place. It's going to go to the hundreds place. So there's that, right? And then we have this 0. It's not going to disappear. We have 0 ones. So we put it here. And then we multiply times 10. Otherwise, we have the same number, right? So we multiply times 10. So we have to have another 0. So now let's count back. 1, 2, 3, because we have to put our comma to separate our periods. Sorry, mine's a little squishy. But so we figured out that their dream home costs 10 times as much as this, which means, remember, when I write, you're going to write that it costs $395,800. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Emily collected $950 selling Girl Scout cookies all day Saturday. Emily's troop collected 100 times as much as she did. Whoa. How much money did Emily's troop raise? So Emily, she collected $950. Her troop raised 100 times as much. So if you look up at our chart, when we go over by 1, it's times 10, right? And we said, okay, but if I go over 1, 2, we know that 10 times 10 is 100 times as much. So are we only going to add 1 0? No, we need to add 2. So the troop made 100 times as much. And if one hint, look, 100 has how many zeros? 2. Remember our little trick? So we're going to take our 950, add our 2 zeros, okay? And now we count back 3. 1, 2, 3. So we read our numbers in chunks of 3s. So we have 95,000. We don't have any digits to read there, so we just say 1,000. They raised $95,000. We have to put our dollar sign, okay? The other way, I just showed you kind of the quicker way, remember, is to take each digit move it over one more place, okay? Because, or two more places if we're doing times 100. It's just a pattern. Katrina has 60 gigabytes of storage on her tablet. Katrina's father has 10 times as much storage on his computer. Oh, we forgot the rest of the question. So I guess the question, the question would be, how much storage does Katrina's father have on his computer, right? So, Katrina has 60. Good old dad. It says father, so we'll put an F. He has 10 times as much. So, 60 times 10, we're multiplying it, we're adding 1 0, right? So now, 600 gigabytes is how much dad has, okay? All right, and then Sam has started saving for college. So far, he has saved $26. He needs 1,000 times as much money. How much money does he still need to save? So he has 26. Oh my goodness, 1,000 times as much? Well, don't panic. So, right now, we're here. We said when we go 2 spaces, 10 times 10, 2 spaces is 100. How do we get to this one? Well, 10 times 10 is 100 times 10 is 1,000. So if it's 1,000 times as much, how many zeros are we going to add? We're going to add 1, 2, 3. So how much does he need to save? $26,000. Okay. Think you should now understand how to multiply by quick tens by adding the same number of zeros. And if you go one place, we're going to multiply by 10. If you go by 2 places, it's going to be 100. And if you go by 3 places, it's going to be 1,000. And if you're starting to catch the pattern, you can see that you can multiply by any crazy amount of numbers. Like if you wanted to multiply by 100,000, you should be able to figure out the pattern. Okay.